He bought an old suitcase at a garage sale, but when he opened it, he couldn't stop crying. Marcus had already lost everything: his wife, his home, even the charity he built from nothing. So when he handed over $2 for a dusty old briefcase, no one cared. But inside that cracked leather shell waited something that would test his faith, shatter his grief, and drag him into a secret buried for decades, one that refused to stay silent any longer. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. Marcus once glided through Saturdays like a local hero, clipboard in hand, keeping a pot of stew warm for anyone who needed it. Then the divorce hit like wet cement. His wife's lawyer took the house, the van, even the food warmer he used at the shelter. What stayed were echoes, a boxy studio, and the sour smell of takeout containers by the sink. Neighbors tried not to stare. They still did. "Is that Marcus?" whispered a woman at the laundromat. "He lost everything," someone replied. He kept his eyes on the dryer window and listened to socks tumble like soft thunder. He visited the soup line at dusk, just to feel useful. Some nights, the ladle in his hand felt heavier than a secret. A volunteer he trained now ran the shift. "We're proud of you, man," the kid said, clapping his shoulder. The clap rang hollow. Pride without purpose sounded like an empty pot. He walked home under orange streetlights, hands deep in pockets, counting steps the way a swimmer counts breaths. The city smelled of wet cardboard and engine heat. A stray dog padded beside him for half a block, then peeled away at a crosswalk like it had somewhere better to be. Marcus told himself he was fine. He was not. The silence in his room pressed on his ribs. He stacked job applications on the fridge with a weak magnet. He circled listings for second-hand kettles, cheap thermoses, anything that might nudge him back toward service. At a corner deli, the clerk leaned over. "You still feeding folks, brother?" the question cut. "Working on it," Marcus said. His smile wobbled. He bought day-old bread and felt its weight like a promise that did not know how to keep itself. That night, rain came thin and needling. He sat on the floor and opened his last notebook. On the first page he wrote one word underlined twice: rebuild. His hand trembled, then steadied. Outside, tires hissed through puddles. Down the hall, a radio played a blue note that lingered like an unanswered call. Morning was almost clean. He folded the blanket, shaved, and told the mirror, "Start small." The words fogged the glass, then faded. Across town, a cardboard sign went up in a front yard, garage sale. He saw it on a community board, a pull-tab flyer with a smudged address. He took a breath and tucked the flyer slow into his wallet. The studio door clicked shut behind him, keys in pocket, shoulders set. He stepped into the cool light, not knowing that $2 and a battered briefcase were about to change everything. The yard smelled like sun-warmed paper and old paint. Tables sagged with mugs, tangled cables, a lamp missing its shade. A box fan pushed lazy air. Marcus slid between shoppers and nodded at hello. "Everything's priced to move," said a man in a lawn chair. He wore a ball cap low and a windbreaker zipped to the chin. Marcus squinted. Pops, the old-timer. He once walked to a clinic. Pops lifted 2 fingers. "I know you," he said, leaning forward. "You got folks fed when winter bit hard." His smile was small, as if it might break if he used it too fast. Marcus laughed under his breath, trying to find my footing. "Footing's cheap." "Direction costs," Pops muttered, then pointed with his chin. "Briefcase $2, strong handle." On a blanket lay a scuffed leather case with rusty clasps and a faded luggage tag that read, H. Cole. The corners were bald, stitching gray and frayed. Marcus touched it with 2 fingers. The leather felt cool and tired. "Work bag?" he asked. "Old life?" Pop said. "Time to let it go." A couple drifted by. The woman, whispering, heard the wife took him to the cleaners. The man shrugged. "Life comes for us all." Marcus looked at a stack of vinyl to give the words somewhere to land. He crouched, flipped the case, tested the hinge. One class stuck, then clicked with a metallic sigh. He could smell a faint blend of dust and something sweet, like a trapped note of cologne. "2, Pop said. "Palm out." Marcus counted coins in a rumpled bill. The trade felt both silly and sacred. Pops tapped the case once, knuckles soft. Carry it like it still matters, he said. A teenager filmed the tables for a yard sale vlog. Vintage vibes, guys, she chirped. A breeze lifted a receipt into the street. A car rolled past, slow music thumping like a far-off heart. Take care of yourself, Marcus told Pops. You too, stew men, Pops replied, eyes glinting. And if you find any ghosts in there, be polite to them. Marcus walked toward the curb with tea. He case, knocking gently against his leg. The handle warmed to his grip. He passed a rack of coats, and the faint scent of cedar rose up, clean and nostalgic. For a second, he saw himself again at the shelter. Steaming lids, clatter of ladles, a chorus of thanks. At the crosswalk he paused. The light blinked red, then white. Tires breathed by. He looked down at the case, thumb rubbing the cracked leather. He did not know what he hoped to find. Maybe a pen that still wrote. Maybe nothing. He only knew that his chest felt less hollow with the weight of it in his hand. On the bus, two teens nudged each other. Why carry that antique? One asked. The other smirked. Because some stories hide in ugly things. Marcus almost smiled. Back in his room, he set the briefcase on the table, wiped his palms on his jeans, and listened to the hallway hush. A kettle whistled below. He slid a chair close, rested both hands on the lid, and breathed once. Room held its breath. Then he opened it. The lid creaked open like an old throat clearing itself. Inside lay yellowed envelopes tied with string, a silver pen, and a stack of curled photographs. Marcus brushed the dust away with the side of his hand. The air smelled like attic wood, dry, almost sweet. The top photo showed Pops decades younger, standing in front of a two-story brick building with a sign that read, Cole and Sons Really. Another photo, the same man holding a baby wrapped in a blanket, smile wide enough to light the frame. Marcus frowned. He'd known Pops as a drifter, not a businessman. He lifted the string bundle. Receipts, deeds, government letters, stamped sized margins crowded with handwritten notes, dates, parcel numbers, signet. Yours. His heart thudded slower, heavier. Property after property marked under Pops's name. Each tagged frozen pending investigation. Marcus leaned back, chair legs squeaking. What did you do, old man? He whispered. The next page answered, case dismissed, insufficient evidence. And below that, a typewritten line, assets may be released upon joint claim by immediate heir. He ran a finger over the words immediate heir. A son, maybe. Pops never mentioned family. From one envelope slid a folded newspaper clipping. Local woman dies in house here. Husband cleared. A photo of a burnt frame. Marcus's throat tightened. He remembered gossip from years back. An accident that broke an old man's life in half. Pops had stopped talking about it after the shelter rebuilt. A soft knock startled him. A neighbor passing in the hall called through the door. You all right in there? Marcus forced a chuckle. Yeah, just cleaning up. The footsteps faded. He turned another page. A letter dated 3 months ago. If found, please deliver to my boy Henry Cole Jr. He thinks I killed his mama. Tell him I never stopped praying for him. Signed simply, Pops. Marcus rubbed his forehead. The ceiling fan ticked slow above. Somewhere downstairs, a baby cried. Every sound seemed sharper now, as if the world leaned in to listen. He spread the papers across the table, aligning corners like puzzle pieces. It was all there. The trail of injustice, the evidence, the plea for forgiveness. And he, a man trying to rebuild, now held someone else's chance at redemption. He whispered to the empty room, You left this for me, didn't you? The question hung like incense. He opened the last envelope. Inside a small photo of Pops beside a younger man in military uniform. On the back in blue ink, If I don't make it, find him. Tell him the truth. Marcus exhaled. The briefcase wasn't junk. It was a map back to a broken family. He pushed the chair back, stood and paced. His fingers brushed the cold window glass. Outside, streetlights blinked through thin fog. He could walk away, drop it all in a trash bin. But that wasn't him. Not anymore. He grabbed his phone, searched the name Henry Cole Jr. A profile appeared. Construction foreman, same city, same eyes as the photo. Marcus's pulse quickened. He closed the suitcase gently. the latch clicking like a promise. "All right, Pops," he murmured. "Let's fix what time forgot." He slid the briefcase under his arm, stepped into the hall, and locked the door behind him. Marcus reached the construction yard just after sunrise. Diesel fumes hung in the air, and the clang of steel pipes echoed against the dawn. Workers in hard hats moved like slow machinery, half awake. He asked around, voice low, "You seen Henry Cole?" A man in a reflective vest squinted. "Foreman's trailer over by the fence. Don't waste his time. He's short-tempered before coffee." Marcus thanked him and walked across gravel, boots crunching. Each step carried the faint rattle of the suitcase against his leg. The morning chill sharpened his breath. Inside the trailer, the heater hummed. A man in his 40s looked up from a clipboard. He had Pops's same jawline, same storm-gray eyes. "Can I help you?" Henry asked. "My name's Marcus," he began, voice careful. "I think we share a friend. Old man sells at a garage sale, sometimes goes by Pops." The name stiffened Henry's shoulders. "That man's no fry." "End of mine." Marcus hesitated, then set the briefcase on the desk. "He asked me to give you something." Henry's eyes narrowed. "If this is another pity stunt, don't bother. That old liar burned my mother's memory and called it fate." Marcus opened the case slowly, sliding the letters forward. "You should read these." Henry exhaled through his nose, but flipped through the pages anyway. The silence between rustling sheets felt like it might snap. His face changed, not softened, just stunned. These are property records," he muttered. "Mom said the government took them because he stole her trust money." "Read the second folder," Marcus said. Henry pulled it free. The letter from the lawyer was still crisp at the fold as his eyes traced the line. "Case dismissed. Insufficient evidence." His breath caught. Outside, someone shouted orders and a truck backfired. Inside, time stilled. Henry pressed a palm against his forehead. "He kept this all these years." Marcus nodded. "He didn't know how to reach you. He thought you'd rather live angry than know he was innocent." Henry sank onto the edge of the desk. "I walked away at 17. I told him I hoped he'd rot." The words fell heavy and he still kept my picture. "He never stopped calling you his boy," Marcus said quietly. "He's not looking for forgiveness, just peace." Henry's jaw trembled once. "Where is he?" "Still in the same neighborhood selling scraps, pretending he's fine." Henry stood, grabbed his jacket. "Let's go." The drive back was quiet, except for the hum of the engine and the occasional squeal of brakes. Marcus watched buildings pass graffiti walls, corner stores, the same streets he once handed soup down. The world looked both smaller and larger when carrying someone else's truth. Pops's house sat under a sycamore porch, slanted, painting like old skin. The old man sat on the steps, warming his hands around a mug of instant coffee. When he looked up, his face went still. Henry froze near the gate. "You really sold your past for $2? Pops smiled faintly. "Wasn't selling my past, son, just hoping it found its way home." For a moment, no one breathed. Then Henry crossed the yard, slow as dawn breaking, and knelt before him. He didn't speak. He just pulled the old man's hand to his chest. Pops's eyes glossed. "You look like your mama when you cry," he said, voice cracking. Marcus turned away, letting them have the silence they'd earned. The breeze carried the smell of coffee and wet leaves, ordinary and holy at once. When Henry finally looked up, he said, "We're getting those properties back together." Pops chuckled through tears. "Couldn't do it without the stew, man." Marcus smiled, gripping the suitcase handle. "Then, let's make it count." News of the reunion spread faster than either man expected. By week's end, neighbors were whispering about the miracle suitcase. Pops's porch filled with visitors bringing sweet rolls, curiosity, and stories that smelled of old forgiveness. The papers were filed, the deeds reinstated. When Marcus signed as witness, the pen shook only once. Weeks later, the lot that had sat empty for decades hosted a new event. Free meals, open hands. Marcus ladled stew again, this time beside Pops and Henry. The steam rose like prayer. "Never thought I'd serve food on my own land," Pop said. Henry grinned. "Guess we both got second chances." The crowd clapped when Marcus's name was called as the new coordinator. Cameras flashed. Somewhere in the back, his ex-wife stood, arms crossed, expression tight. The contrast between them was quiet but complete. She had wealth. He had purpose. He nodded once and turned back to the line. When the last bowl was filled, he packed up the pots, wiped the counter, and carried the old suitcase to his truck. The hinges still creaked, the leather still cracked, but it had done its job. He set it gently on the passenger seat. Streetlights blinked on gold in the evening haze. He rolled the window down, let the night air move through. A radio host murmured about kindness being the only currency that never loses value. Marcus laughed softly. At the next stoplight, he looked at his reflection in the glass. Older, yes, but clear-eyed. The city around him hummed with the same noise it always had. Yet somehow it sounded different, more forgiving. From grace to grass to grace again, he whispered. Then he drove on, suitcase steady beside him, heart lighter than it had been in years. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that second chances still exist. Sometimes what's taken from us isn't gone. It's waiting to be found again. Just like Marcus's purpose. Subscribe for more stories that prove grace always finds its way.